Hey
Hi.
there. Welcome, welcome.
Finishing my lunch and I'll hop on camera.
No worries. I'm still adjusting to the fact that I'm on Pacific Coast time. You'd think I'd be adjusted after 2 months here, but no. So,
Where are you now?
I'm in Anaheim, California.
Nice. And I'm
Yeah. Oh, and this place is super nice because it's in a schwanky apartment building that has access to, so I get to access to the gym and the hot tub and all of the other stuff with my Airbnb fees, which is nice. And I met some really cool people in the hot tub last night, interestingly enough. So they gave
uh,
me some good recommendations for restaurants.
Hot tub meetings can always seem to go one of two ways, either really good or really weird.
That is true. We wound up talking, and then I kind of like slipped in under the radar, that thing that you hope people don't notice. I mentioned, oh yeah, and I started a podcast last year, and they were like, podcast? What is the podcast called? And then I mentioned Permission to Kick Ass, and they were like, oh, hold please, finding you now. Like, shit. All right, cool. That just happened. So yeah, I got followers and restaurant recommendations in the hot tub last night. Who knew?
more than that.
Also, good to see you, David. Looking snazzy. Like, woo, look at that.
Yeah, I just went and got a haircut last week.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Heather, you're eating lunch. David, do you want to go first?
Sure.
Awesome.
So this was going to be a big reveal yesterday during the group meeting, but then I forgot I had to go pick up my girlfriend an hour and a half away at the bus station, so I couldn't.
Oh, no.
All right, so I am interviewing and I'm on the fourth and final interview for a full-time job. And
Wow, congrats.
thanks. And whether I get it or don't get it, the outcome for my business still has to be the same, which is if I'm working full-time, I still want to keep this going on the side because this job is basically a means to an end. It's literally a 5-year plan to make some money, set up my life, and then get back out and come back to doing what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And also, why not make an extra few bucks on the side?
Exactly.
Or if I don't get it, or if I don't accept, whatever the case may be, I still want to remove myself from part of these tasks that I'm doing. And so if I'm still full-time in my own business, well, then I just want to be, I want it to run better.
Yeah.
So
do you have a list of those tasks you want to get rid of?
Mentally.
Okay.
And I'm actually just started working on it tonight because the next thing I was about to say was even before I started interviewing for this job, which was a month ago, I had already told myself back in February, I said, I am taking the entire month of May off of client work. I just said no to everybody. Any new leads, I said, nope, I can start in June. And then I actually had people take me up on that. So my June is booked and now I'm into July. And so I'm literally booked out until August. And as of right now, I've got all of my expenses paid till the end of this year anyways.
Isn't that great how that works out? Like you just tell people how it's going to be, and the anxiety tells you up front, you can't possibly do that. People are going to say no. They're going to say you're weird. They're going to freak out. They're going to be like, this isn't how business is done. And then they just go, oh, okay, well, bummer. I was hoping to work with you this month, but next month works. Here's my money.
Yeah. Yep. Well, that's the thing too, is like I'm telling people I can't start until July, but if you want to put a deposit down now, which in April, they're like, sure, no problem. I was like, oh, okay.
Yep. Takes that little bit of a leap of faith, and then you realize it's not the thing that you thought it was.
Yeah. Well, and it helps, again, having my expenses paid. So even if they tell me no, it's like, well, whatever.
Yep.
All right. So with that, and also just like telling people how it is, I know I'm going to lose a few good leads. I know that a personal touch is always a better touch, but being a marketing automation specialist, I'm going to try automate some of at least my initial lead handling. So I've got written down here all the different ways that people can contact me. And I want to set up autoresponders. And again, I understand that a cold automated email, of course, I'm going to make it funny and witty and relatable, but I'm going to admit like, this is an automated email because I'm an automation specialist. So who would I be if I didn't do this in my own position?
I think that's a nice like meta approach to it too. Like, yes, this is automated. I am an automation specialist.
Yeah.
It's a demonstration of your skills as you're passing off the leads, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Also, Stella says hi. Continue.
Hi, Stella. I saw Stella tonight walking my dog, and my dog wanted nothing to do with Stella. Well, she wanted everything to do with Stella, but in a bad way. All right. So on one hand, all of the personal joking, funny, haha stuff aside, and I know this is just like a minutia thing and I can just test it and see what happens, but I'm just wondering, like, how much information should I put in that very first email versus keep that email short and funny, but just say, hey, go fill out this form on my website. And then
okay, I would say cat I would say, so do you have a basis of response for people that have reached out in the past? Like, do you know generally what buckets people fall into when they're reaching out?
In terms of what type of buckets, like types of projects or types of leads, like if they're going to be good or bad?
So I tend to think of automations in terms of human automation first, mechanical automation second. Meaning I will go through the process manually a few times to get an idea of what people are thinking and asking for before I start working out the logic and the decisions. So my thought process in asking that question was like, so you've had leads come through. I know this. Like, do they generally fall in not a great fit at this time? Need a little bit more information. You would be great to work with, but I'm all filled up. Like, do you have some clear buckets you can sort them into, or?
Yeah, that was another thing that I left out, is all of the ones that are like just not a great fit. I also want to get rid of them right away. So that's why I'm trying to think of either in the email, say, this was the other thing, the other kind of like breakthrough that I had this year was I finally found a pricing structure that mostly fits my backstage passes, backstage pricing.
Backstage pass to the David Sandell show. I get it.
Yeah. So it fits my backstage pricing and it seems acceptable to people. So like, I can't charge day rates because none of my projects are only a day. One thing that was just really not jiving with the stuff that we were learning in Copy Chief and Excel and Real Free Life is because, well, whatever. Marketing automation is not the same as copywriting. Like I can't just send you 5 different ad copies and have you choose which one you like. It's like, no, this is literally a diagnosis. And I don't know what I don't know until I get in there. But if I tell people I'm charging $150 an hour, they shit their pants. Versus if I tell them, I think your project is going to take me about a week. And based on that week, it's $3,000. I've had nobody tell me no since then.
It's all in the framing. It's all in the framing.
Yeah. So what I want to do is I've broken my business down into 3 things: marketing automation, email marketing, and well, no, I forgot the other one. But anyway, so I think it was like web design and web development. So in my first email, I want to say, if you're interested in, or again, I don't know how I'm going to work this with logic, I'll put them in these buckets or not, but it's like, hey, if you're interested in marketing automation, my price range or my pricing model it's a weekly rate starting at $3,000 a week, can be more. If you're interested in web design, my websites start at $4,000 for just a very simple blog and go up from there. If you're interested in email marketing, I haven't figured this part out because that pricing is always trickier, but basically give them that model and the actual prices ahead of time, because I get a lot of crap leads that think I'm going to do stuff for $100 and I just want to get rid of them without even talking to them.
Well, I think you could do that without giving yourself a price, like locking yourself into a price range. Because remember, the first price that they see is going to anchor them. And, you might say starting at $3,000 and their projects, you've diagnosed it and it's more of a $10,000 project. And they're going to be like, what happened to the $3,000? Bait and switch, which wouldn't be a good fit. Wouldn't be a good fit anyway. I'm sorry, I've got like cat fur on me. I'm trying to get it off my face because it itches. But yeah, like, okay, so here's a thought too, and this may or may not be doable depending on like the available time you've got. But sometimes a bad fit client is a bad fit for right now, and they
Mhm,
can be educated into becoming a good fit client for you.
mhm.
So what if there was some sort of resource that taught them how to like DIY automations that you could create that was like a low ticket offer, a couple $100, and okay, so based on this application, I don't think we're quite ready to work together, but I've put together this resource for people at your stage with the top 5 most common automations, walking you through step by step how to do it. Feel free to implement this and report back with your results. And then you've got like testimonials and somebody who's paid you for something that you didn't have to do. And then like you've started them down the road to becoming David fans. And the guy
Yeah,
like, oh, I got this cool resource from this guy named David. You should check it out. He taught me all about automations. Um, and then it'll also identify the people who were looking at this before going, how hard can it fucking be? Like they make the software for this now. Clearly you just click a few, but oh crap. That's way harder than I thought it was now that I'm digging into it. Maybe I just need to like save up money and hire David. So like,
yeah. I mean, building out those resources is definitely something that I have identified to do, not only for that reason and for tripwires, but just for lead magnets as
mhm,
well. But the reality is I don't have them right now. And
yeah.
also people come to me for extremely specific stuff. I mean, I
Mhm,
have written probably 5 custom integrations that will be completely useless to anybody else in the past 2 months
yeah.
because they're coming to me for a very custom solution to their specific problem.
Mhm.
So like a resource like you're mentioning, it probably exists, but I just don't know what that is off the top of my head. And again, I'm trying
Yeah.
to kind of just nail this stuff down first.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a thought. As
Yeah.
always, take what
Mhm.
fits and leave the rest.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. I think that's great. I guess so is this leading them to an application once they hit the autoresponder, or have they already gone through the application and they're getting an auto reply?
Yeah. So based on how I get, that was the next thing too is, well, no, I did ask that, but again, this is where I'm going back and forth. Do I keep the email short and send them to a form or an application on my website, or do I give them that information up front and then say, well, and then if you're still interested, go to the form on my website, because the
Awesome.
form on the website is going to collect more information, which
Hmm.
again, at that point, they still might not be a good fit. And I still need to do some filtering and stuff like that.
That's true. Um, so where are they filling out an inquiry form on your site? And this is the message that responds back to them?
Yep.
Okay.
So, well, there's so far I've identified 4 different ways. 2 of them are from inquiries on other websites, on the MailChimp website and on the Klaviyo website.
Hmm.
So I have no control over that other than where that form goes to, which I'm going to set up a dedicated email address just for that.
Yeah. Okay.
Then, yep, they can come directly from my website and fill out the form right away.
Hmm.
Or again, I'm going to try to get my personal email or my personal business email off of my site. So again, they just go to a dedicated one first,
Okay.
and then I can decide what to do with them.
That's cool. So it sounds to me like 2 potential autoresponders, because if they're filling
Yeah,
out the form, then you don't need an email that says, hey, go fill out this form.
correct.
So that one's going to be like, cool, I've had a chance to look over your results. And based on that, I recommend we get on a call. I recommend you put down a deposit for my next available spot. Something to that effect, like have a couple of diagnoses you can recommend for them.
Mhm.
For the people that are coming from somewhere else and they're going into this dedicated new email, I think that the very first thing is like, hey, great, saw that you reached out, would love to help with that problem. Sounds really amazing. Real quick, can you take a minute to fill out this application? You could call it something else like
Yeah.
survey, intake form, whatever you want.
Yep.
Application sounds weird unless you position it right in that
Yeah.
context. So like if you could fill out this form and let me know a little bit more about your business, this will give me enough data to tell whether I'm the right person to help you or whether I can refer you to someone else that can help.
Ooh, I like
Um,
that wording.
yeah, I always, when I'm feeling weird about what to say to people, I always frame it into like, how will this benefit them? Well, I
Mhm.
know outright that if I'm going to reject working with someone, I'm going to do my best to find them somebody else to work with, unless they're a piece of shit. In which case, I can usually tell well before the application process, the form gets filled out, whether somebody's going to be an asshole or not, because they usually start out pretty strong as an asshole, you know? And I don't refer assholes to people I know because that reflects on me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, is any of this helping? This is kind of how I would think through it if I were building something for myself. So
Yeah, I mean, like as I guess the the main question was also a question in munitia, if I said that word right, which is again, disclose all of the bad stuff in the email right away so that they don't even move on to the form, or just make that brief.
I think
and then
the way
move
you
them to
set up the
form.
form will let them know what they're in for.
Okay.
And so there are little subtle things. I wonder if I can find Chris's.
Well, because I also wanted to, if I disclose the pricing model and structures in the email, then I can keep the form shorter too, because we all know in UX that the longer the form, the less likely people are to fill it out.
And also, by the same token, the less serious they are about actually solving their problem.
Yeah.
So somebody that's super motivated about solving their problem and who thinks that you're the person that is going to help them will fill out the form. And that's one additional form of screening.
Yeah.
And I like early on in the copywriting career, I resisted that pretty hardcore until I realized that not putting up barriers between myself and people results in the exact problem that you're talking about. I'm getting crappy leads. Somebody that refuses to fill out this form is basically refusing me to tell me about their business, which means we can't work together. Like, I'm not even going to spend any more time on you. What do you think I can do? Read your mind? But there are people out there, like, I can't share this confidential information with you until we've agreed on a contract. I can't even figure out if I can fucking help you. I'm not going to sign an NDA just to find out if I can help you. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So let me share this. We are on Orzi Media, right?
Mhm.
OrziMedia.com, apply now. So name, email address, company URL, fine, pretty straightforward. So this is the first indication that you really get that Chris is experienced in business because he understands all these different niches.
Yep.
And has given you, and it's a very subtle thing, but that's why I wanted to walk you through this. He put a lot of thought into this.
One question real quick, so I can write this down. Is that a live URL or is
Yeah.
it?
If you
Okay.
go to orzimedia.com,
Media.
it's this apply now button and you'll be able to see it. This is the second positioning right here. Notice where the numbers start.
Mhm.
A
Yep.
million. He doesn't even entertain somebody that's under $500,000. Almost certainly anybody that clicks this button is probably not ready. He
Yep.
might consider them, but it's going to depend on what the rest of their answers are. But like, look at the top end here.
Yeah. I
Subtle
probably won't.
positioning.
I probably won't have that.
So whereas like if somebody's coming to you and they're making $25,000 a year in their business, that tells you a lot about where their business is at and how hard of a sale this is going to be. Somebody
And I
who's
like-
here has a dedicated budget for marketing, for advertising, for tech, like.
Yep. I like this also because rather than just stating my prices as a filter, it's this thing works as the filter.
Exactly, because somebody that comes here and looks at this and has to choose this is already starting to go, oh shit, he's probably expensive.
Yeah.
If they're a wrong fit person, they might even abandon at this question, which would be interesting to see in the results. So what's your main offer or product? Again, like if somebody here can't tell you what they've got on offer, or what they need help with, maybe in your case, or what automations they're considering, that's also a sign, like they might be too early stage for you to help them. But they could be a good fit for this potential offer that we talked about if you do decide to create a resource for them.
Yep.
All right, scroll. There we go. How many subscribers are on your email list currently? Also a power move.
Yep.
If you don't have a certain amount of email subscribers, we can't help you. And we actually ran into that problem. Like, I know he added this in after one of our early clients, because instead of that, when we burned out their list, I won't say we burned out their list. We extended the maximum amount of offers. And after a while, the responsiveness declined because people had already bought it.
Yep.
And instead of pouring money into growing their list, they poured money into weird things like buying a billboard. And I told her, I really wish that you had told me that buying a billboard was part of your marketing strategy, because I would have advised that you invest that into like Facebook ads or
Yeah.
something else that would get you more subscribers, that we can run through all these automations that we built for you that we know generate a lot of sales, and like that investment would have paid for itself versus the crapshoot of a billboard. But yeah, I mean, like if you have under a couple thousand here, we probably can't help you.
Right.
And so that's an automatic, like a
See,
flag
and
there.
it's funny, like I have been writing myself not motivational notes at all, but just like my ideal client must be making X amount of money. And yeah, it starts, okay, depending on the exact project, if they're making upper six figures, that's fine. But for email marketing and for complex marketing automations, they need to be making more than $1 million. And
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't know how do I put that in my form without looking like a sleazeball. But this looks really straightforward and nice. And
Yeah.
also, yes, how many people do you have on your list? Because I have found, as to toot my own horn, as good as I am at creating automations, if you have less than 10,000 people and you're not constantly bringing in at least, 1,000 to 2,000 people per month, well, then my sophistication is pointless. You might as well just run with the basic stuff.
Exactly. Like at a certain point, the automations are great, and they can do a lot of, just set it and forget it sales while you're sleeping. And everybody loves that, but you're not ready for them under a certain growth point. So like,
so again, like I know what that number is. I just didn't know how to put that on a form.
Mhm.
So like I've been going out and just Googling other marketing automation agencies, digital marketing agencies, whatever, and stalking their forms, and everybody sucks, but here's is Chris, and it's just what I need.
Awesome. Well, I mean, we have like a whole unit on this inside One Person Agency, his coaching program that I also help coach for. And it's interesting. This is kind of a timely discussion, because I was going through people's homework yesterday, and a lot of people were like, I think I'll target businesses like 250,000 to 500,000. And I was like, mistake. Let's talk about the realities of that size of a business, especially from the outside. If $500,000 feels like a big number to you, I'm not saying that that's a good feeling or a bad feeling. It's just, it's easy to look at what somebody else has and assume that that's a big business. 500,000 in reality is somebody that is just growing out of solopreneurhood. They've maybe got some contractors. They're probably investing pretty hardcore in systems, processes, new software structure that's going to allow them to grow. I was like, you're talking about e-com. Do you know if this person at $500,000 a year has stock in a warehouse? Do you know if they're drop shipping? Because that's like, stock in a warehouse is going to have extra budget tied up in that they may not be able to spend on you. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, they are in aggressive growth mode. You're probably going to be dealing with a founder whose priorities are split in a million different directions. They may or may not be responsive. They may or may not be motivated. Nobody knows. But like, this is the reality of somebody at the $500,000 level. Whereas somebody at $1 million level is already investing in processes and systems. They've got a team in place that they're starting to grow and develop. Their priority is getting the right people into the right roles, clearly defining their key metrics and their responsibilities, and then trusting those people to do their job. And I was like, so like with $1 million, I know that feels like an extra big number, but there's probably actually somebody that could be your point person that's not the founder. There's probably a budget allocated to marketing if they don't have a dedicated marketing team. So like, start to think a little bit bigger and like understand the realities of the business. So all of that to say, I think that you're spot on. Like, these people need a certain list size, they need a certain revenue to make your work a complete no-brainer. And there's one thing that Chris says to our course that I really, our students, that I really love, which is we fight downhill battles. We are not ashamed of the fact that we fight downhill battles. Could we win the uphill ones? Yeah, but that's a lot harder than we really want to work. We look for like quick wins that could be major needle movers, and we're really freaking good at that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is another indication that, like, without getting in their face of like, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that, we've just signaled to them that we have an expectation that you're going to be actively growing your email list. And that you're going to spend money to grow your email list. Just another very subtle signal that we're not a budget provider. And if you're coming here thinking that you're going to pinch pennies until the automations kick in and make you a millionaire, that's not how this works. Have you ever worked with an email strategist or copywriter before. This just gives us vital information as to how much handholding they're probably going to need. But it's always a surprise with every client. And then obvious, how did you hear about me? What made you decide to reach out to us today? This is where we'll get a lot of good data about where their pain point is, where they're really struggling.
Yeah.
What is the end result? Diagnose your own problem. Tell us how we can help you. I love it.
So the people that I don't have that question, but just based on the briefs and stuff that I get from people, the end result would just be save time, more money. Like, ooh, very helpful. Great statement.
Yeah. Everybody says that, but like if this, I think, helps make that, like, save time, more money. What are your goals? Save time, make more money aren't really goals. Save and like cut an hour off a week from my prospecting process and add $20,000 to my bottom line this month are goals.
Yeah.
What obstacles are standing in the way of you achieving these results? How self-aware are you? Are you expecting us to come in with a magic wand and fix all your shit? Or are you aware that there are certain limitations? And that limitation could be that we don't have a marketing person on staff and we're reaching out to you. But like, this is us kind of gauging how self-aware they are and if they're going to be a problem client who like invests with us and then likes to play that blame game. Like, well, we spent a lot of money on you and all of our shit isn't magically fixed, like, because we're not magical shit fixers. We're email marketers. There's a limit to what we can do. And I'd love to believe I'm a superhero, but I'm not. Then future pacing them. How would achieving these results change your life and your business? Freaking love this question because it's basically them selling themselves into our service because they believe that we could deliver this.
Yeah.
What would make this project a success in your eyes? Great, because we have that data behind the scenes and we can approach this project from, maybe they need a little bit more hand holding. Maybe they need like a more aggressive deadline than we normally would do, but like that would be a win for them to get this to market fast. So just more data. When would you like to get started? This answers that. Have you ever heard me talk about the 5-star prospects thing from Dean Jackson? So yeah, this answers that question of like, okay, cool. If they're great, they have the budget, they know they have a problem, they know they want to work with us. Do they know they need to get started soon? Because if they're not planning on getting started until like 6 months from now, well, why are you filling out this form now? Yeah. And then he asks this right up front. If we do work together, can we publish a case study with your approval? And I love that. And anything else that we should know, just in case? I haven't seen the back end replies to this one, but I know that sometimes that gets some really good data that you might not have otherwise achieved just because you're not in the mind of the customer. So
yeah. Speaking of back end, if you're comfortable sharing, or if you know, do you know what the conversion rate is on that form?
I do not know. Okay. I would ask Chris and share it if I did know, but I can ask him.
Yeah, that's okay. All right, so that is everything I've been looking for in a form. The final thing, which again, it's pretty easy to figure out as long as I think about it for more than 10 minutes, is along with just getting rid of crap leads right away. Again, I'm booked out until August. I may be starting a full-time job. So, you know, I might not even have a form on my website. It might just be, hey, I'm completely booked and I can only take, I'm only referrals only. So if you know, I saw this on somebody else's website. It's like, who do we both know that can put you in touch with me? And so basically it's like, you have to find a way to contact me, not the other way around.
I mean, I think that could be a good thing. I don't know that you need to obviously state it. Although there's a caveat to that, but like, because for instance, with my podcast, when people apply to speak to the podcast, I'm like, there are 3 ways you get on the show. Angie invites you. One of Angie's guests makes an introduction to you, or you fill out this application. No other pitches will be considered. And so when somebody sends a pitch to me, I send them to that page. I'm like, go read this and tell me that you understand. And if you understand, I should see an application form come through. Because I didn't invite you and you were not referred to me by a guest. Some people get it and some people don't. And then that's fine by me because my next available air date is in September. So I don't really care if they book a spot or not. Where was I going with that? I don't think that you necessarily need to tell people like the only way to get on my calendar is if someone connects you, but you can say, I've got spot for one person
Yeah.
available this month. So if you know somebody that needs help with this, put them in touch, something to that effect. Like and that could just be my own inner person talking. I don't like to be that aggressive in your face.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and I'm not that famous to do that either. Again, I've only been thinking about this for 15 minutes, and the other that was the first idea, and for some reason that's what came out of my mouth. But no, a better idea would just simply be like, hey, I'm completely booked. I'm only taking
Mhm.
taking referrals. But if you want to get on my waiting list, what is your project? Because I always email my list first as soon as I have an opening. And
Mhm.
if you're ready when I have an opening, we'll get in touch. And if not, then I reopen the form on my website, and that's it.
Yeah. Awesome. I think that works.
Okay, well, I mean, basically, I just wanted a warm fuzzy that said, sure, sending autoresponders instead of personally handling every single lead is acceptable.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as long as you, like you said, it's not a cold one that's just out there like, hey, I can't be bothered to talk to you. Click one of these links for more information. But if it's genuinely like, hey, this really matters to me, I want to make sure that I get you the right resources. So take a minute to fill out this form.
Mhm.
Most people aren't going to have a problem with that. And the ones that do, they're going to self-select out of your services.
Yeah.
Talk about getting rid of the leads that are going to drive you nuts. Sending them through an application form is going to get rid of a lot of people.
Yeah. And then the
Um,
other reason why I wanted the warm fuzzy was basically, again, going back to one of my first statements ever joining, was I have mid-range clients with mid-range budgets as of right now. So if we're talking about people that are in the million plus range, they probably have assistants. So maybe their assistants would be willing to fill out these forms and jump through these hoops. But like, I know you're aware of one of my previous clients where I was working directly with the founder who had like a 10 or $20 million a year business.
mhm.
He was the one that contacted me. So it's like, well, in that case, would somebody like him be willing to jump through these hoops? Again, I know I'm going to lose some of those people, but I want to mitigate losing too many of them.
Just realize how much I want you to recognize how much of an anomaly he is running a 10 to $20 million business and taking care of the marketing himself.
Okay.
Because usually somebody at that stage, 10 to $20 million, 8-figure business, has marketing team, tech team, community
Yeah.
managers, if that's part of their business. Like they've got team leads that are taking care of that stuff. Like they might be brought into the discussion at some point by the team lead, but that's
Mhm.
not usually going to be your point person. And that can sometimes be an indication that like, because the role of the founder of the company at a certain point is to be the person steering the ship. And the
Mhm.
person steering the ship can't be down in the control room tinkering with things because they literally can't see the water from down
Yeah.
there. So that, I mean, that was an interesting discussion that we had at my event this weekend. Like the reason that so many people get stuck on launches and strategy is because they're trying to switch back and forth too much between maintaining the high level course of this ship and like getting down and trying to do all of the stuff that happens. And as
Yeah.
Chris is fond of saying, like you can't see the label from inside the bottle. Somebody's got to be up here steering the ship and then trusting the people underneath them to push all the buttons and maintain the fuel and like keep us going in a forward direction.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm using a ship analogy as if I know how you drive an actual ship, but I am speculating to the best of my ability. Somebody's going to be up there, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, this was basically just my step one in this month of working on my own shit. And I've got plenty of more to do after that in terms of website positioning, copy, design. I
It's
plan on
never
hiring.
ending, man.
Yeah. It's just I'm finally to the point. I've been saying I'm going to update it and finish my website for like 5 years, but it's like, no, that's it. I'm done. I'm not doing it. Somebody else is doing it, and I'm going to pay a copywriter. I'm not going to write my own stuff because I can tinker forever, and I never like anything I write. So I'm hiring a copywriter to do all my web copy and hiring my friend that's an SEO specialist to at least get me ranking for some of these things. And hopefully I'll have the systems to back it up.
I mean, it's always ongoing processes. I don't know that I've ever felt like I really know what I'm doing. I know that I am a great coach and I am a phenomenal strategist. I've never really felt like a business owner, even though objectively looking at the numbers I bring in, I own a business, I pay my bills. This is a success. Like I had a live event in Vegas last weekend and was feeling like, oh my God, that was really great. I want to do that again. And then I saw the post-event surveys today with some critical feedback. It wasn't mean, but it was critical. And then, of course, old insecure Angie popped right back up and was like, this fucking sucked. It was a failure and they hate me and I'm never going to do it again. And thankfully, I've got really good business friends at this point that I can call and be like, I got some critical survey results and I'm having some feels. Can you talk me off a ledge? And so, yeah, I've spent like most of the morning breaking down these survey results, trying to figure out why they got under my skin the way they did, what I can use to make them better. I've got all of these post-it notes from all of my calls with my friends, like, okay, reminder to self, reminder to self. My favorite thing was from Melanie, who, yes, I use Melanie to coach me too. She was like, are you a bad human being? Or is there a skills gap that can be addressed? There's a skills gap. Okay, I can do better. So like, I mean, I don't know if that gives you hope or anything. That's always given me a weird sense of hope that the people that I look up to and admire, and by all accounts have wildly successful businesses, all feel the same way that I do. Like, shit, I fucked it all up. I don't know what I'm doing. They're never going to buy anything from me again. Oh my God. Like, yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
Business.
Fun. Well, that's all I got because, well, like I said, I'm just scratching the surface. Those are my biggest pain points right now, is just dealing with leads. Even if they're good leads, it's still, the process is taking way too long to get to them signing a contract. So I'm trying to first get rid of the bad ones. Second, like, what can I do? At some point, obviously, I have to give them the human touch, but
yeah. And I would say with the good leads, it would be like, hey, you know, just like you're doing now, my schedule's full, but I've got an opening in blah. Would you like to reserve that spot? It's just a deposit of X dollars today. And then I'll get in touch with you on date and we can start talking about when to kick off that project. If you know that you can't take them on, or if they say no to that invitation to book you for the future, then do you have somebody else that you can refer them to so that you look like a rock star hero who's still solving their problems, even though you didn't solve their problem, you know?
Yep.
Because that's been a big authority builder for me too, that I refer off all of the leads, like I said, unless they're assholes. Anybody
Heather,
that I can't work with, I share. Yeah.
Heather, do you have anything to say? Because I have a question about that, but I don't want to take up too much more time. You're muted, Heather.
No, go ahead, wrap up with Angie, because then there's still time for us to
Okay.
talk.
All right. So my question is, as we say that a lot in Accelerator, which is, if you refer people, you look like a rock star and it builds your authority. But who is it building your authority with? Because I do that already with a lot of my leads, is I pass them off to other people, but those other people have not given me anything in return, which I don't care because, you know, I've got enough to deal with as it is. But like, how do I use that to my advantage? What is the back end of that statement?
I don't pass off any leads because I expect anything out of it. Like the reason that I pass off leads is because I've discovered that, I mean, to sound a little bit woo, even though I'm not really a woo person, there's giving and receiving, right? I've got to give and I've got to be good at receiving, and putting out there some sort of goodwill not only shows people that I'm generous, I'm not competitive, I'm somebody to collaborate with, but that I'm just like a good person, and that's how I want to be seen. And the fact, like, anybody that's ever been introduced by me to a client knows that I kind of go out of my way, like, tell me what makes you the perfect candidate for this role. I write a personalized introduction. Like, Heather, you got introduced to a client recently, a potential client. And I said, you know, hey, meet Heather. Here's some great stuff about Heather. Heather, meet B. Here's some great stuff about him. Y'all go make the magic happen. So I take a personal interest in that. And it increases my reputation, one, because folks who get a referral from me to business and they close the business are grateful. They got that business because they knew me. Folks that hired the person that I introduced them to are grateful to me because I introduced them to the person that is going to solve their problem, hopefully. And also to those people, I look like, actually to both groups of people, I look like a wildly connected person who everybody knows and wants to be around. So it's a very subtle positioning thing, but I wouldn't say that I've monetized it so much as used it to grow my own reputation within the industry. So like I'm
Well-
one of the behind the scenes people that doesn't really advertise my presence, but the people that know me goes, Angie fucking rocks. Why don't you know Angie? Come meet Angie. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. So it's more, so I mean, yeah, I get all of that. And I also don't refer people expecting to get anything back. But I was just wondering, like, where does that loop close? And I think you just mentioned there was, which basically is, as soon as you do it enough times, eventually that loop will close. But yeah,
Mhm.
for right now, everything is just pushing
Yeah.
them away, and nobody, oh, again, I'm saying this as if I'm expecting something. I'm not, but I'm just saying, like, nobody that I have, the business owner that I have referred to has never came back and thanked me for a lead.
Mhm.
And neither that lead that I passed off to them, once they closed that deal and they had a good experience, the lead also never comes back to me and says, hey, thanks for, connecting me with this other person. So again, I don't care about that. It's just, it
Mhm.
hasn't closed the loop for me. So yeah,
Yeah.
so that's why
People get involved in their own shit and they might have meant to do that and not. And so that's an
Yeah.
easy problem to solve if you're really curious as to whether that connection helped them. Set a
Mhm.
calendar reminder and fire off an email to them like, hey, how did it go with so and so? Like a month later, and invite
Yeah.
them to tell you.
That's-
I've done that every once in a while. I'm not historically great about follow up, but I do like to do that from time to time. Like, hey, did anything ever come out of that introduction? Were you guys able to figure something out? Awesome, great, so excited to hear that. And the other way that you can bring it around full circle is it's just something that I'm not comfortable with personally, but literally, so the person that I introduced Heather to is a marketing broker. He charges a referral fee for
Mhm.
introducing people to clients. So I was like, I told people, build it into your fee if you're uncomfortable with paying someone for the referral, but like keep in mind that a marketing broker is well connected, has clients willing to pay money to him to find people for them. And they're bringing you a lead that you would have had to spend countless hours and money to attract. Like they're just
Yeah.
bringing it to you. And that's worth a real fee for somebody that charges that much. I could
Yeah.
charge referral fees. I've referred hundreds of jobs over just the last 6 months,
Mhm.
but I don't want to.
Yeah, no, I don't want to do that either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much all I had on that one.
Okay, awesome. And of course, tag me in the forum, send me a message. If you got anything else, we can work through it.
Yeah, once I start working on these autoresponders and like actual wording or copy or, again, email and then form or whatever the case may be, yeah, maybe I'll start a thread if I'm not feeling comfortable about something.
Okay, awesome. Perfect. Heather, you got anything? You're muted again.
Just more of the same, Angie, just trying to spring a leak in the lead generation hose so that I can be booked up till July and August and September. So
How did it go with B?
it went really well with B. And then he referred me to this other guy who has just a lot of administrative one-offs, right? Hey, I have this employee guide and I need this written in a particular way so that it's understandable. Or I have these brochures that I need to have tweaked so that it's sounds right.
Mhm.
But they're all these little one-offs, right? Like he basically sounds like he needs someone he could just throw over the wall. Like, here's just 10 hours of random shit I need done. So what's your hourly rate?
Mhm.
So I gave him an hourly rate, which I think is kind of low, but he was like, what? Well, now wait a minute. He said, help me understand, like, what does an hour look like? How long would it take you to write that one sample I sent?
Mhm.
So I've been waiting to talk to Dolores, my business person, because all this is technical stuff and she's our technical writer. She loves this technical writing stuff, which just drives me nuts. But I want to just run past her like my response. And it's all about, dude, you want it done right, or do you just want to have, I mean, clearly you found writers who don't know how to write. So like, yeah, you can find someone to maybe charge you $20 an hour or $40 an hour, but you're paying for an expertise, you're paying for it to be done right the first time. You're paying, I mean, we're high-end quality, copywriters. We're not,
Yeah. Well, I think so, and I don't want you to think of this as like a mistake. There was an opportunity to reframe there the moment that he said, "What's your hourly?" Right? Because anytime you drop an hourly figure on them and it's above a certain level, people immediately start thinking, "Whoa, shit, how do I reduce the hours? How to like they start figuring that they know enough about how you do and how you work to be able to cut corners and save costs if that is a figure about. So what I was doing when I was listening to you was looking for, I know that Kev posted an old email thread when someone reached out to him and did the same thing, like, we're looking for somebody that charges blah, 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 blah. And like, they basically tried to dictate the terms of it. And then Kevin asked a series of questions that had them going, oh shit, I didn't think about any of that. And had him positioned as the expert by the end of it. I'll see if I can
Yeah,
find that, but
that'd be helpful because I did go in with a per project rate because I don't want to go in, I don't want to live and die off an hourly rate.
mhm,
I hear a lot of people saying it. It doesn't matter. You don't need to know how many hours it took me to do the work.
yeah.
You need to know is that I
That,
did, and
I
it's
tell folks flat out, like, okay, so I hear you and I understand that the budget is the budget, right? And this is the framework that I use with people just because of who I am. I understand the budget is the budget and I know why you're asking that question. I don't charge by the hour and here's why. It immediately sets us working at cross purposes because it's in your best interest to get as few hours as possible and it's in my best interest to get as many hours as possible. I don't like starting relationships off that way where we're like already fighting against each other over money. What I want to focus on is getting this project done, getting you some real results, and then figuring out if we need to tweak or iterate from there. And that's why I set a per project rate.
yeah, I don't even know that he has legit projects. Honest to God, I think he just has a whole bunch of administrative one-offs.
Mhm. And
Like,
so that could be just a bad fit client. It could be that it wasn't going to work and not
I'm
that you
not that
necessarily
worried.
did anything wrong.
Yeah, I'm not that worried about it. I mean,
Yeah.
he has employee manuals, and this is the time off policy. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
I think he just has a bunch of, I just want to hire you for 10 hours worth of work a week with no
Hmm.
real, parameters around what does that 10 hours include?
Yeah.
And, and I said to Dolores, I said, I don't mind. Yeah, I don't want to say no, but I don't want to say yes. Like, this isn't our ideal client. This is filler work. Let's just set a standard with him that if he ended up chucking over the wall a bunch of just busy work, we wouldn't feel like we were wasting our time because, oh, we only charged him like $20 for it. I don't know if
Hmm.
I'm not taking an hour out of my day on a Saturday or a Friday night or a Thursday to do something for $20.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not doing that. And I don't really want that work. I just want my work.
Hmm.
So what I'm trying to figure out is how do I get everyone to know that I'm like the advertorial person, right? I have my blog, but no one sees my blog but my friends, but then I can get back out to daily compelling content on LinkedIn, which is part of my plan now. But
Ah.
and I can leave my tagline, like, hey, I do advertorials, but I'm just
Mhm. Well, I mean, how you get people to know you as the advertorial person is that you become a visible person talking about advertorials. And this is why we talk about the authority content. So you're talking about the most recent results or the most fun that you've ever had writing an advertorial or something surprising that happens or how the ideal structure of an advertorial funnel works. Like you're out there teaching and it can be teaching as you learn, right? Because I think that a lot of people fall into the trap of thinking that you have to have like 10 years of expertise before you can start turning around and teaching. But it can be, Abby calls it in her voice guide, like the friend at the bar, where it's like, well, hey, cool. I just read this cool book and I learned this cool thing and here's how I'm applying it in my life. That's still teaching someone, even if you just learned it. So,
so let's talk about authority content for a minute because I think I need to wrap my head around.
mhm.
When you say authority content, what do you envision? What does that look like to you?
It can be any number of things. Pick a medium that you feel comfortable in and start publishing. Another way to think of it is as a publisher. And do you like to write and publish? Do you like to publish videos? Do you like to publish podcasts? What do you like to publish? What can you put out there that is a demonstration of your work? Does that make sense?
So I'm just publishing like one-off white papers left, right, and center.
Not necessarily white papers, because like you could publish a quiz that helps people understand themselves better. You could publish a LinkedIn post that talks about an experience that you had recently or makes an observation of the industry. Authority content doesn't have to take any one single form. And I think that's what makes it so challenging, because it's kind of a blue sky proposition. You have to decide what you want to write, and you have to decide where you want to write it. And that's why I usually say pick a channel that you feel comfortable in, whether it's your blog or something like that, and just make publishing regularly your first step. Then you can always start cross posting that thing that you've gotten in the habit of publishing regularly to LinkedIn, to Facebook, seeing if you can get some traction, starting to take note of where people are asking questions or sharing content. And does that make sense?
It does.
It's a bit of a guessing game at first.
Okay. So I've been doing my blog, but my blog is not about advertorials. It's not even really quite yet about copywriting. It's mostly just about anything. So the other follow-up question I have is, when you think authority content, what do you think about is the content of that authority? Is it literally just writing to show I'm a writer? Is it writing about the thing I want to write, like advertorials? Or is it just writing in general? Is it
I think I'm going to adjust the mindset a tiny, tiny bit. It's writing to provide value for people that you might want to work with, or just share something that you learned with. It's not writing to show my expertise necessarily, although doing this will show your expertise. Can you see how I'm like the intent behind it will change the quality of the writing a little bit? Because when you can shift the focus beyond me, I'm important, why don't people see how great I am, to like, how can I serve? That's kind of overused in the business world, but I think that's the exact right approach to take. How can I help people? How can I serve? What can I say that will teach people something that they need to know and help them understand this that much quicker? Because just like I was saying with David, you could teach 90% of what you know for absolute free. And most people aren't going to actually do anything with it, or they're going to try to do something with it, realize it's too hard, and want to hire you. So like in my mind, you can't give too much away. You could give them all your favorite, you get like, here are my top 5 favorite advertorial formulas in a series and why I love them. Like there's all kinds of stuff that you could teach. It could be about what you love. It could be about what you hate. It could be about myths about advertorials. It could be tips about getting better advertorials. Like there's all kinds of opportunities, and it might just, might benefit from sitting down and doing just like a timed brainstorming session where you dump out a bunch of ideas. Does that help? And also that one that I told you about with Kevin was the very first link I clicked. Go me. So here it is. So there was a bid request, and that's literally what they used as a subject line. Hello, Kevin. At this time, we have basic needs, nothing really sophisticated. So can you see how he's already starting to try and prescribe what he thinks he needs? And he's trying to keep the budget low. And you can just tell from the language he's using. Nothing really sophisticated. The complexity of our needs will increase with time, but for now, we want to find who we would like to work with moving forward. We're looking for bidders. Again, competitive pricing for the following project. Audience, iPhoneographers. These individuals subscribe to the best iPhone photography forums. Some of them teach, others want to learn mid to high-end photography. List size 3,500, type of email, plain text, campaigns, 2 mail outs. They're selling this iPhone kit at a promotional price. We want to hold off sending anything promotional to this crowd in our first mail out. We want informative article about how to use the different kinds of lenses and some other accessories. No ads, no coupons, no asking to like our Facebook page, no social media content, just an in-depth article with useful tips and an engaging funny bone that tells them how to use accessories to make memorable pieces of art. The only thing we would mention at the end could be something like, for more useful tips, check out our site, blah, blah, blah. So can you see how he's already diagnosed his own marketing problem? And he's just looking for a vendor to do what he said and to provide a price for that. So Kev writes back and says, hi, Joe, thanks for reaching out. Cool product. I want one, and I'm not even your prime prospect. All right, like Not starting with here's all the reasons that you're wrong, but starting with, hey, we're colleagues, we're friends here. You've got something really cool. A couple of questions. All right. And this is where the expert reframing comes in. How did these subscribers enter your list? And have you been in dialogue with them via newsletter or email sequence? Those are important things for your copy pro to know so that they can carry on the conversation using the appropriate voice and structure. If this is a cold list, i.e. you haven't heard from them or they haven't heard from you in weeks or months, or even a warm, sporadic mailings, then I would suggest a different approach. Consider a value-heavy article with a short pitch for the product at the end. Done correctly, this will not turn off your prospects, but will feel like the natural next step. Keeping the first email void of a product link, you risk getting your prospect in a lather and having them rush off to Amazon looking for the next best thing. So he basically just said, you're wrong about your approach to email one, but he did it in an educational way versus a judgmental way. Can you see how he did that? And that's an example I've used with clients in the Orzi media too. Like I can understand how having an offer in every email might feel inherently uncomfortable and like it's being super pushy, but consider the opposite. If you've got a super fan on the other end who this was the message that reached them, they can't wait to get your product and now they have to go hunt for a link. That's not a great user experience. They're less inclined to buy. They may not buy at all. Whereas if we just made it really easy by having that offer right there so they could click on it if they want it, there you go. Like we're doing them a service. So by the time you send out your second email, you could be mailing someone else's customer. Ooh, talk about a gut punch that no email marketer wants to hear, that they're emailing somebody that bought from somebody else. I realize I'm probably preaching to the choir here, and this is where he expertly turns it around. Instead of I'm lecturing you like you don't know anything. You probably already know this, but I just wanted to call it to your attention. Just wanted to make sure you didn't miss out winning new customers by deferring to goodwill. We don't mind being sold good products by good people. There's a balance to be struck here between providing value and proper selling. I look forward to your response. So look how he hasn't even answered the question about pricing. He's basically just like disregarded everything this guy said and said that's not a smart approach and here's why, but without using those words. So the next reply from this guy, hey, good advice. I loved the advice about somebody else's customer. To answer, how did these subscribers enter your list? They know the list owner from the site. And have you been in dialogue with them? Never before. Ooh, that changes things. I'm an email marketer. If I know that these people have never been contacted, that's going to change my strategy. A value heavy article with a short pitch for the product in the end. Isn't this enough? And he obviously shared a link. So Kevin says, hi, Joe. That link might keep them from wandering off, but your page is not designed to close the deal. So look at how I'm using my expertise to answer his questions, but I'm not acquiescing to his demands. Does that make sense? And this is only taking like 5 minutes of my time once I've got a little bit of experience under my belt. So look at this page and go, that's not really a page that's designed to sell. There's no direct call to action or special deal. The prospect's still inclined to say it looks cool and then potentially go price shop. That's why I recommend selling the specific unique features inside the article that you're sending, plus value building and price comparisons to what it would cost to get the same shots with DSLR. That way, when they land on this page, or even better, a custom page relating to the special offer you just made them, they'll not be pondering the price, only asking when does it arrive. Make sense? I realize this is more advice than you asked for, so this is another masterful turn. You didn't ask me for any of this advice. I am providing this to you because I see an opportunity here, right? That's another way of saying, look at you, you lucky bastard, without saying that. Fantastic. But I'd much rather see you invest in a skilled writer who sees the big picture rather than a vendor type who will type by the hour to fulfill your quote unquote basic needs. I work with the very best new breed freelance copywriters you'll find. Many of them have skills that exceed their experience. If you'd like, since we've already uncovered the best plan for this promo, like Kevin just reverse diagnosed this for this guy, right? I can get you a quote for them and take my notes to execute the job. Mailing out of the blue to a cold list requires selling. They will not appreciate you for being cool and laying low. What you want is a solid value-driven promo that gets them stoked for the product to arrive at their doorstep. Let me know if you'd like to meet one of my preferred writers. Kevin, this email reminds me of the value you offer on your site and your podcast. Yes, please put me in touch with one of your writers. So like, I know I just threw a lot at you and I can share this link with you too, but can you see how he turned it from somebody going, tell me your price. We want it like this. It's going to look like this. Here's what we want. And to him basically saying, no, that's not what you want. It's not what you need. Here's what you need instead. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I don't know if I just like threw too much at you, or if you're trying to figure out how to translate that to you. Help me out. How's it landing? And I'll put this in the chat here.
No, I think it's a good case study. It doesn't really apply to this particular scenario.
I
It doesn't.
I would challenge you to find the parallels. It's not exactly applicable to this scenario, but like with that conversation where the guy reached out and said, "How much do you charge per hour?" We go, "Hey, I hear you. The budget is a concern, and I'm not interested in like charging you an astronomical sum. What I am interested in is figuring out what exactly the project needs to look like and what a fair fee looks like for that. That makes sure that we're all in a win-win scenario. You're confident in the work. I'm confident in that. Like, can you see how I'm saying like take the thinking behind this approach from Kevin, not necessarily his exact words?
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
I'm sensing some frustration again. I don't know if I'm misreading this or not.
I get it.
Okay. I mean, and this is something that takes a while to get good at. It's going to take a lot of practice. It's going to involve a lot of feeling like you didn't really handle the conversation well. That's just part of the growing pains of becoming the expert feedback provider. But I will tell you that most people that come to me and say, you know, I'm looking to pay X per hour, I'm looking to pay X per email, and I go, okay, well, that's interesting. What got you to that figure? And I'll get them talking about themselves and their experience so that I can counter with my experience so that we can arrive at the conclusion, which is that's not a smart pricing structure. Why don't you try mine instead?
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah. And I'm happy to, like, in the future, if you've got somebody that sends you that, like, remember, okay, first and foremost, you do not owe anybody an immediate response ever at any time, no matter how urgent they say it is. This is business, and the only business emergencies are things that are not planned out very well. We're not cutting people over. We're not shocking their hearts back into rhythm. Like, this is not life or death. This is business. And the people that make their shitty planning your emergency are not people that you generally want to be in business with. So, all of that to say, you do not owe someone an immediate response. The reason that I say that is because if you don't owe someone an immediate response, you can open that email, see what they have to say, and then, hey, pop into an accelerator forum and be like, I don't know how to answer this. Can y'all help me out? Like, this is throwing me for a loop. Is this a bad client, or can I still like reframe this and capture it? And we can actually help you workshop a response to them that might either turn it around or give you more data that lets you know definitively, yeah, that's kind of a shitty person. I don't really want to deal with them.
Okay.
And I tell folks a lot of times when you're feeling anxiety, you don't have enough data, and that's what's making you feel anxious. And so the answer is to find the questions that you need to ask that will give you the data that makes you feel comfortable proceeding or not proceeding. Is all this making sense?
It is. Yep.
So yeah, that's something to pay attention to, I think, moving forward. Like if you're feeling anxious about replying to anything or setting a quote, making a proposal, something like that, like if you just sit with it, breathe deep, and then ask myself, okay, am I missing anything? Is that why I'm feeling anxious on this? Is it because I really want to land this because I'm running out of money? Like that's another valid form of anxiety, but it'll change the way you approach a contract, which kind of sets up relationships to not go very well. So yeah, I mean, like a lot more mindset stuff than I thought I would cover today, but like, no, I feel this on a very deep level. It took me a long time to get out of this, you know, X per email, X per hour mindset. But once you figure it out.
Well, I never wanted to get into the X per hour mindset. I've yet to sit and really figure out what's my hourly rate. I just know what I want to charge per project.
Mhm.
I don't really care what my hourly rate is.
Okay. Well, and I think that's fair. Like, feel free to borrow exactly what I said before. Like, hey, I hear you, but I don't charge per hour, and here's why. Because it's in your best interest to get less hours, and it's in my best interest to get more hours. And I don't care about any about that. I care about good work.
No, I like that. That seems something I would say. The only time I really sit and reflect on my hourly rate is if I'm diagnosed, like if I'm post-morteming a project.
Mhm.
You know, like, hey, Dolores, the first blog we wrote took 5 days, and
Yeah.
so our hourly rate was like $3.
Yeah. And that's invaluable information, I
now we're
think.
doing it, you know, where you're researching for 30 minutes, and if I get a groove, I'm done in an hour. So 90
Mhm.
minutes later, our hourly rate's all of a sudden $150.
Yep.
So that's the only way I use it. Because the other way, I can't wrap my head. I hear people talking about it all the time. I hear Kevin and Rachel talking about it. I think I can't figure that out. Like that's
Mhm. Well, the effective hourly rate is based on time tracking and billing.
right.
That's a calculation that, like you're doing, happens after the work has been done and the bills have been sent out. It's not something that you estimate in advance. Whereas the pricing structure that Kevin recommends in RFL is something that you use to estimate projects based on the time you think it'll cost and how much you want to bill for that time. So that makes sense, the distinction between the two?
Even that structure, I saw him walk through a pricing structure with somebody on one of his calls,
Was it the backstage pricing?
probably.
Mhm.
And there were a lot of good points in there in terms of, you know, if you need a designer, you need this or you need that. And then once you get your bottom line, then you add a 20% this or that. But even partly like that, the hourly part just kind of, it's a little
Well,
hard
like,
head to wrap around.
let me see if I can help with that. So I'm sharing this big old calculator here. So let's say that my goal is 10,000 a month, because backstage pricing is based on what you want to make, your aspirational goal. If I'm working 20 days per month, that's Monday through Friday, 4 weeks per month, right? You get where 20 is coming from? 5 days a week, 4 weeks per month.
Hmm.
Then that means I need to make $500 a day for that to work. The cool thing about this pricing is if it doesn't take me a day to do this and I can start on my next project, then it starts to stack. The client doesn't need to know that I didn't take the full day. The next client doesn't need to know that I'm starting their project early. Like, that's all internal pricing that you're communicating to the client. I'm charging $500 based on this project because internally I think it will take me a day and my day rate is 500. So are you following so far?
Hmm.
I could conceivably take 2 projects a day for the next month and make twice what I was estimating, just because it's in my best interest to turn out this work faster, because that makes me more profitable. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like, just because I'm charging $500 a day rate doesn't mean it's going to always take me a full day to do this. That's just what I estimated, and I'm leaving some padding before and after. And if I get it done faster, hey, yay me, I get to start in the next one.
Yeah, I think that where I'm kind of, I think there's just something you said right now, or maybe just something clicked. I think this day rate or this per project rate makes better sense when I'm doing all kind of the same thing. If all
Mhm.
I'm really doing is advertorials, and an advertorial is an advertorial is an advertorial, whether it's a listicle or it's a,
Mhm.
they're all still like bloggy kind of things, right? 1,000
Yeah.
words, whatever. So to research it and do it, I figure that's a 3-hour job, you know, or 4 hours to write it, research it, whatever.
Mhm.
And
And
then,
you could do it by hour, which would, like, so this is your day rate, right? And if you're going to work, say, 4 hours a day, right? Because we're not going to work 8 hours a day. We're just not. We like to think we are, but the limit of most creatives is 3 to 4 hours a day. So then your working hourly rate is 125. And so if you think it's going to take you 3 hours, well, then that advertorial costs 375. But that's why I prefer a day rate, because I'm like, I think it's going to take me 3 hours a day of work, right? And if I'm feeling a second wind today and I think I can cram in a second advertorial, then today's day rate was 1,000 instead of 500. Does that make sense? That's what I mean by stacking.
no, I get that, but it's just to me, it's like, so what? Where does all this data go? Why does this matter? Like, if I'm going to charge for an advertorial, I'm going to charge, you know, the, am I doing it close to the money? Is it a, um,
Mhm. Well, this is just another data point. So like, for instance, if you
No,
wanted
but-
to break it down hourly or daily, when you're calculating your effective hourly rate afterward, you can go, okay, did it take me 3 hours to do that? Did it take more? Did it take less? How on the money am I? Am I? Words.
Maybe I'm just not far enough in the pipeline of the company path for this to resonate where
Mhm.
I care about this. Because for me, I don't care about this.
Yeah.
Maybe
Sometimes that's the case, and it doesn't make sense until it does.
yeah, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
It's like, how long
Can
does
I
it take a
say a
project?
thing?
Absolutely.
I resonate with both things here. So I set my projects based on what I have measured before in terms of how long I think it should take. And then I do the project. And if I've completely overrun it, well, then it's just a data point that says, okay, next time I need to budget more time.
Yep.
But to what Heather said, that's why I switched to a weekly rate, because it says, okay, I know backstage pricing or backstage modeling, I want to work 6 hours a day, 4 days a week. So that's 24 hours per week. So when I say my rate is 3,000 a week, that's based on 24 hours. So
Mhm.
great. In a perfect world, I finish the project in 24 hours. I hit my effective hourly rate. Everybody is happy. But if I have mismanaged or if I have underbid or whatever the case may be, and I end up working 60 hours that week, well, then, yeah, I don't care. Like, I need to get this project done and it costs
Mhm.
$3,000. So my effective hourly rate was 2 instead of 100. But,
Mhm.
in that regard, again, if you need to win a bid to pay the bills, well, then again, like, yeah,
Yeah.
the hourly rate doesn't matter. It's just,
Yeah.
that was one thing that I was really hung up on. I was losing, I think, 99% of my leads for a good 6 months because I was trying to stick to this 150 and it just wasn't working. People would see that, even really good leads would see that. I wouldn't state 150, but whatever. They would
Mhm.
just see the high price. So they're like, no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But again, I
It's
framed it.
not. Yeah, I like the way that you mentioned that, David, because you took something that wasn't working for you, this adherence to the hourly pricing structure, and you turned it into something that does work for you by a weekly standard. And that's
Mhm.
really the way to think about this, Heather. It's not necessarily that we need you to follow this formula. It's just a way to think about pricing that will help you start to systematize this versus going with your gut on pricing. And as a business owner, you really want to systematize your pricing and make sure that you are profiting from every project that you take on versus just trying to land a gig, because there are projects that are so like anti-profitable that taking them on puts you in the negative. One, because you didn't make enough money to cover your costs, and two, because you couldn't prospect or fulfill on other client work during that time. And so those are clients that are better to walk away from, in my opinion, and just trust that there's somebody else out there that I can help versus trying to fit them into some sort of box. Like, if they don't fit into this
Yeah,
pricing parameter I've created for myself, then cool, it's just not a good fit right now.
yeah. I mean, I've been around enough to know, and my brain is pinging enough that says there's a whole piece here I don't know yet, or there's a perspective I haven't gotten yet, and eventually it'll all make sense to me. But for now, basically, I budget a project based on what I think I can get from the market.
Okay.
And then my client says something and I get weak need and I change it. But I didn't on the last one. I stuck to my guns on the advertorial.
Excellent.
And I sold him on the value, and I sold him on how, close to the money it is. And if this gets him 55 leads who buy, he's more than covered his costs. So
Yeah, I think demonstrating value for people is great. There's another exercise that I can share with you that might, well, I mean, I don't know that you need this because you've got your bills taken care of, but for folks that struggle with lower pricing, I usually suggest another pricing exercise to them, and I call it your oh hell no number. An Angie original right there. And I basically make you calculate all of your monthly expenses and then divide it down the same way that you would with the backstage pricing. So like, figure out how much you need to charge per day to cover these monthly expenses. Okay, that's your floor. You cannot take any project that is less than this amount per day, per hour, per week, however you've parsed it out, because you're losing money. You literally can't pay your bills if you take this project. And that, I think, helps people
Yeah.
wrap their minds around, not like, oh, well, I made $30 in-house, so $30 an hour in-house, so I think I'll charge $50 now that I'm a freelancer. You know what I mean? When I usually put them through that exercise, they find out that their hourly rate is closer to like 100, and they're like, oh shit. I'm like, yeah, your employer paid for a lot that you now have to pay for. That rate is going to have to be way higher than you feel comfortable charging, because otherwise you can't afford to be in business.
No, I mean, you have to factor that 40 to 50% fully loaded
Yeah.
PTO, holidays, health insurance, medical insurance, life insurance, dental,
Mhm.
vision.
The
all
fact that my computer died right after I recorded a podcast episode and I had to go buy a new one outright. Yeah. Business expenses.
Yeah, pretty much 50% is your fully loaded differential if you think about what you're worth to a company.
Mhm.
So if you're sitting at $35 or $40, they were actually costing them 65 or 70. So
Mhm.
no, I think again, there are pieces and parts where this hourly rate is factoring in. It's mostly now about my postmortems. I know that because I'm going to start RFL training now, I know this does fit in the bigger picture somewhere
Yeah.
when it comes into projects and this and that. But basically, I'm doing advertorials. Hopefully soon I'll be doing more. Somebody wants a blog. I know what I'm charging.
Excellent.
It's like I have a flat fee. It's like this is what the market will bear. That's what I'm charging.
Excellent.
So if somebody,
And I'll encourage you to pull a Chris Orzakowski, because I think he recently wrote an email about how when he started the print newsletter, Make It Rain Monthly, he started at $49. And then later on, it's like, all right, can I raise this to 79? Will people still buy? Oh, they will. Cool. Can I raise this to 99? Will they still buy? Okay, cool. Can I raise this to 149? Will they still buy? So like, now that you've got your set project price, I would also challenge you to every once in a while just float out a higher price and see if you can get it. The cool thing about that is once you get it, you're now that person. I used to tell people, like, once you get a $10,000 a month retainer, you're going to have a really hard time setting retainers for less than $10,000 a month, because you know you can get it. You already got it. So, and I do what?
Just to support that, I've done that already this year. My weekly rate started out at 2,000 and now I'm up to 3,000. And because I am booked out, I'm going to raise it up to 4,000 just to see if I can get away with it.
that's awesome. No, that's really awesome.
Mhm. I think that's the trap that a lot of people get themselves stuck into. Like, they fall into a comfortable rate and they can get business that way. So they just kind of stay there for years. And it's like every new person that comes in, raise it just a little bit more, raise it just a little bit more.
That's my plan. I just want the people to come in. Just send them my way. I'm just
That makes
waiting,
sense.
just waiting to see all the little, critters roll up on the sand. Let's go.
And
Doors open.
if it makes you feel any better, right? Let's talk about the beginning of my freelance journey. Technically, I first started writing in 2006 when I got married at 20. Yay! I was young and dumb. Knew everything. You can't tell me I don't know who I love. I picked up a book about freelance writing by Bob Bly, who most of us are familiar with. I didn't understand a fucking word that guy said. That book was so far over my head. I didn't do anything with it. I quit writing for another couple years, went to grad school, came out the other side, got laid off from the Oprah Winfrey Network, found a different book called The Well-Fed Writer, which was much easier for me to understand and wrap my head around, and then decided I could do that. I'm a copywriter now, and set off down this crazy journey. That same year, or no, a couple years later, I reread that book that I bought from Bob Bly, and suddenly I understood it. I was like, I could swear when I read this last time, it didn't make any fucking sense. And now it suddenly does. Oh, that context will happen and eventually this thing will click into place. And that's my favorite thing to tell my coaching students. One day when it clicks, you're going to go, that's what she was talking about. Damn it. Okay, I get it now. And then it'll be back to work. It happens to me all the time.
So I'm going to start RFL and just go through and we'll see how that works.
Okay.
I'll start doing authority content. I got to wrap my head around that. I need topics.
And there is a plan for in the next couple months for cohorts of EV and RFL to start. I don't know what the dates are, but they actually do want to put together we're all working on this week at this time cohort. If you want to go through it with a bunch of other people and be able to like ask questions versus self-study.
I'm not paying any more money for.
No, it's not. It's part of your membership. You get access to EV and Excel and RFL through Accelerator.
Right. I was just doing it self-study.
Yeah.
I know there's a live EV course coming.
Which you'll get access to because you're a member of Accelerator. That's not a pay an extra thing. That's a Heather decides she wants to go through it week by week with the cohort versus self-study, then you can do that. If you don't want to, you don't have to.
Oh, hell no, I will. If I can swing it with my schedule, I will.
Yeah, absolutely. I love working through it with a cohort. I'm glad that they're bringing that back because just the camaraderie of everybody working through everything the same week and like talking to each other about the exercises, I think really adds a lot of extra to the experience in this group. Having gone through RFL myself, I'm a student and a coach.
And a believer.
And a believer. I sing the gospel of Kevin on the podcast all the time. Yeah, it's cool. All right, any other questions? I'm willing to stay another 10 minutes if you got something.
I'm good.
All good? Okay. All right, I hope this was helpful. I hope that you reach out to me or tag me in a post, anything like that. If you have any questions after the fact, definitely use that thread that I posted in the, I mean, just reading through that a couple times and starting to figure out the thinking behind how Kevin reframed that, I think will help you approach these calls where people try to force you into a price that doesn't feel comfortable. Or you could just tell them, hey, you know, I hear you, not a good fit. It gets easier with practice. And then you start to realize they just weren't good fits to begin with.
Yeah, I wasn't really a fan of just tucking over an hourly price, but I thought, well, if all you're sending over is administrative stuff, I can't project price out rewriting a 1.5 page benefit page on tardiness and showing up to work. I mean, what the hell would that be? Like $150 for that one page. You know what I'm saying? Like it just, there was just no way to put a price on that without him going $100 for the page. Well, yeah. Do you want it done right, or do you just want what you have?
So I tell people like you're welcome to find a cheaper resource. I totally understand the budget is the budget. And then they usually get real quiet when I say that. No, I'm not bringing my price down. What are you smoking? If you can't afford me, that's fine. No judgment here. Take your money somewhere else. I don't want it. It's a power move.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are people out there who will write it in a better way than what it's written, but it won't be written the way I write it. So do you want the way I write it? I mean, you have my samples, you know how I write. So you either like it or you don't. Obviously you do. So if you want what I have to offer, if you want this, you're paying for it.
Yes. And here's the trope that's true in business. And this is exactly why it's a trope that we all joke about. Can't tell you how many times somebody has come to me, heard how expensive it was, went and found a cheaper vendor fucked it up, and they come back and they have to pay my original rates to fix it. So they've just paid like double or triple the initial investment if they had just hired me in the first place. Do most of them learn their lesson? No. They go on to continue chasing cheap rates. But I'm going to be here. I'm not going to say I told you so when you come back to me. I will fix it and I'll say, hey, for next time, might be a good idea to try XYZ.
I don't know if this makes me a bad person, but when people do that to me, it happens quite a bit. They say, no, you're too expensive, or no, you're going above and beyond what I actually need right now. So then they go find somebody else. They come back to me. I don't tell them this, but just magically, oh, well, in that amount of time since you've been gone, my rates have increased now. So it's like, well,
totally fair.
I love that. No,
totally fair.
That.
Because it's true, like cleaning up somebody else's mess is way more work and way more time than just getting it right the first time. And I tell them that, like when we're going through the budget stuff and I can already tell that it's going to be too expensive for them, I just tell them like, hey, you're paying up front, but it's going to be done right on the first try, the first time. You never have to go back and fix it again other than maintenance. But if you go hire somebody else and if they screw it up, it's going to be more work, more time, and more expensive. So when they come back, my rates have magically increased in that amount of time.
That's the parallel to that on the writing side is when somebody brings me something to edit and thinks that automatically is going to mean a lower price. And I tell them, I can't tell you what the price is until I actually look at the quality of this copy I'm editing, because easily half the time my recommendation is burn it all down, start from scratch, which means you're not hiring me to edit, you're hiring me to write.
Which was what he was saying. He's like, you're just editing stuff. I'm like, am I, or am I rewriting it?
It's like, and I can tell them like, hey, if the budget supports an editor, I'm happy to introduce you to a couple editors. They're not copywriters. They'll be looking for like grammar mistakes and stuff like that, and not for sales stuff like I would. But I totally get if that's what you're working with. So I always try and throw in a subtle little like, they're not going to know sales copy like I do, but they will help you get the job done in terms of like edits and cleaning this up.
Yeah, but when you see something that badly written, I mean, there's no distinction between editing it and writing it.
Oh yeah, that's definitely one where I would tell them no, but like with all due respect, I hope that, you know, if you were the one that wrote this, that I'm not hurting your feelings, but this one needs to be a ground up rewrite. Like, I don't think that this is going to work the way it's originally concepted. Save it, maybe it'll work for different kind of posts later on down the road. I don't think any time spent writing is ever wasted, but for our purposes here, I think it's just cleaner to try and rewrite this from scratch versus trying to fit Frankenstein all of this stuff together and see if it'll work. It rarely works out the way that you think it will if you're just trying to mishmash pieces together.
Yeah, I'm not sure this guy's ready, but that's fine. I think B will toss some more over the fence. Maybe not. I don't know.
He seems pretty motivated. His business is built on referral fees, so he wants to make connections. I'm sure he's going to make connections.
Yeah. All right, authority content. That's my game. That's what I put down in my thing. That's putting a schedule, writing every day, or at least publishing week every day.
Mhm.
All right.
Just find his schedule. It doesn't matter whether it's every day. It doesn't matter whether it's once a month. It just needs to be consistent and sustainable for you. Because I know one, like the guy that wrote the Well-Fed Writer, Peter Bowerman, he publishes one newsletter once a month. Granted, he's also got the book that he published, which is an authority builder. But just like, remember, consistency is the thing. Showing up as often as you said you would show up, doing the thing that you said you would do. Because I think you'll find your voice and the things to write about once you develop that good habit.
I agree.
One
True
more
story.
supporting,
Go ahead.
one more supporting story. I realized all of my supporting stories sounds like I'm bragging. I'm not. I'm just trying to echo what you're saying.
David, I love hearing everyone's story because it makes it more real and believable that it exists. So brag away.
Okay, but it's not bragging. So I started publishing authority content at the end of last year because in Accelerator we had like the holiday or end of year blitz. So I did that. Then we had one, I think Q1 this year. So I did that every week. And some guy, don't know who he is, he signed up to my email list. And because I do have autoresponders and actual dog and an email marketing structure on my website, this guy contacted me, and it was a pretty good lead for quite a bit of money. And just timing wasn't right, is all it was. And then there was also some miscommunication through email because you can't see faces and emotions and stuff like that. And I accidentally insulted the guy. And even after insulting the guy, he said, well, okay, I accept and I apologized after that, of course. So he said, okay, I accept your apology. And I still think you're the right guy for the job. And I've worked with other agencies before, but the fact that you're an email marketing guy with an actual email marketing program on your website, you're already like above everybody else. And so I publish my authority content on LinkedIn and then repurpose it or reuse it on my newsletters and stuff like that through my website.
Excellent.
So,
That's perfect. I think a lot of people get frustrated with authority content because it's the long game. It's something that's cumulative over time, which is exactly why consistency matters. Showing up and putting your name out there with regularity matters. When somebody says they're going to start a blog and with the hopes of monetizing it or turning it into something later on, I tell them expect to commit at least 6 months to this. Because for at least 6 months, it's going to feel like you are screaming into the void and nobody is paying attention to you. but they are. They're just not telling you. And then eventually word starts to get around and followers start to develop and then people start to comment and like it snowballs at one point, but you got to show up first, even when it sounds like nobody's listening.
That's where I am. I need to make sure my website's SEO as SEO as I can get it. I know it's not. And even though I know sort of how to do it, I hate doing it on my own stuff. But I need to also figure out how to set it up so that people can give me their email for like takeaway.
Mhm.
I have no idea. I mean, I had to build this website and that is so far outside of my realm of comfort. It's not nearly as nice as what it would be if someone who actually knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
Not bad. I don't think it's bad for someone who has no idea, has flunked every computer class I've ever taken. I think I did pretty good. But I got to clean up those two pieces so that if there is that one person who wanted to, sign up, they could.
Yeah.
The other thing, I
would-
don't know,
Go ahead.
sorry, is just kind of going backwards a little bit, but the other thing about authority content is not necessarily people seeing it right now after you have built your audience, but I have been screaming into the void, still am screaming into the void mostly. But the fact that I have posted for 6 months straight on hyper personalizing abandoned cart emails and email automations, it's like, so if I get a new person or somebody sees me today, they can go check my timeline and be like, holy shit, this guy's been talking about it for 6 months now.
True.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
That's the other benefit of the cumulativeness. Like people can go back into your history and see that you've talked about this a lot at length, consistently over time. That in and of itself makes you into an expert in their eyes, even if you don't feel like you're very much further than they are. Just by studying it every day, publishing something, parsing your thoughts out, forcing yourself to take action, you are becoming an expert. And they're not doing that same thing. So like you're growing by exponential increments here, and they're staying at their same level of knowledge because they're not doing that extra processing thing of writing like you are. Or videos or podcasts. Again, it's more about publishing than the actual medium itself.
Cool.
All right, that's all the time I got for today. But as always, send me a message, tag me in the forum if you got questions. Here for you. You guys are awesome. Some great stuff today. Thank you so much.
Hey,
Thanks,
good
Andy.
luck on your job, David.
Thank you.
Bye, Angie.